All right, sales team, this is probably one of the last scenarios that you will run across as you are calling back through clients, either from leads that are pre-existing to randomly calling a Craigslist ad, or even following up with somebody from the past, calling an Indeed ad. Maybe somebody's just calling you out of the blue. Maybe you just stumbled upon a phone number and this is your situation you found yourself in. Either way, there will come a time where somebody's going to ask you for a full-time employee, or somebody that's going to join their organization full-time. So not a temporary capacity, not just something part-time for a month, or for 6 months or whatever. They're going to actually look for somebody looking to join their whole organization, 401k, company insurance, company vehicle, cell phone allowance, Christmas party, the whole deal, right? So we actually have a program called Trial Now, as in, trial this guy right now. And it works right alongside with the program that we normally sell, which is temporary, in that we still bill them out every single hour for every single week. It's just that we have set aside a different structure for this type of a sale and this program, to do it a lot differently than what they would have experienced out there in the industry. So to give you kind of an overview, if you wanted a full-time worker from most agencies, what they will charge you is 10 to 30% of that employee's annual salary. So if they want to pay them 20 bucks an hour, you'll take 20 times a 40-hour work week times 52 weeks out of the year, gives you a base salary of X amount. 10 to 30% of that number is the fee from the actual agency to that client to go out and locate this individual. Now, that's not how we do it. Quite the opposite, actually. We're the only agency in the industry that finances this as an option. So not only are we almost a fourth of the cost of using this type of a service, but we are also in effect financing it over time. So they never owe us 3,000, 6,000 in a chunk. It's just billed out hourly, just like they normally agree to when they order temporary men from us. So very often, the first time you pitch a Trial Now program, it's going to sound completely unheard of to them, because it is in this industry, which is what makes it such a phenomenal program that we offer. Now, for most of you that are on a full-time drywall, full-time plumbing, full-time electrical type team, you will not deal with these types of sales on a regular basis unless you just enjoy it. There will be a department created that will take the byproduct of your natural temporary sales calls, that when one of those divisions or sales reps stumbles upon a company that just wants one man versus multiple men, and more importantly, they just want them full-time versus temporary, then you guys will filter those leads and pass them on to a different team that only deals with that Trial Now program. You'll remember back from when you were first looking at your rate sheet, you might have noticed that there's 3 columns, 30 days, 60 days, and 90 days, and that is literally the trial lengths that we offer when and if a client requests this option. So basically all we've done is we've taken our regular hourly bill rate according to whatever the target wage was for the worker, and then we've built in our buyout fee. So if we decided, for example, to do that for $3,000 for that particular type of worker, then that money is built into that hourly rate, which is what gives you a slightly inflated rate. However, that rate ends at the end of the trial. So for example here, if he says he wants one worker and I can tell that it's going to be a full-time employee, I mean, I more than likely would have just used the tag word Trial Now, and that tag word would have passed that lead directly onto that department. However, if I wanted to go ahead and give them an idea of what that would cost, I would simply say, give me the target range of that you pay your worker, and they'll usually give you a $5 range, and that's more importantly what you're asking for. If he says he was looking for a $20 an hour worker, say, but would you pay them up to 25 if they were perfect? And he'll probably say yes, and say, well, then I'm going to give you some quotes here based on this, $20 to $25 an hour individual. Because at the end of the day, unlike a temporary project, the bill rate quote you give him has to be based specifically on the specific hourly wage he wants to pay the worker once he's beyond the trial, because he's no longer a Catalyst employee at that point. He will be working directly for the client. So if the client says 18 bucks, when we're out there vetting, workers, we need to offer the 18 bucks and whatever else this full-time client is offering. So very often before I get off the phone, I'll either copy and paste that ad into the notes for this project, or I will ask them to email me the actual parameters that they're offering, whether that's 401k and cell phone allowance or whatever it is, so I can make sure that when we're recruiting, that when that vacancy is created, that information is extremely accurate and up to date. Now, as far as the the cost and whatnot, it's really simple. When you pull up your wage calculator, on the left-hand side there, it had that $14 to $50 per hour. So if this guy says he wants a $22 an hour worker, I can literally look over and there's only 3 columns. There's a 30-day column, which is the first one. It's the highest price. There's a 60-day column. It drops a couple dollars off of it. And then that 90-day column, which is the last one, and the price is slightly reduced. So the longer that they order this man from us for the trial, the lower their hourly rate gets. And at the end of the day, we could really care less which one they choose. We're all really kind of paid the same. But ultimately, we're letting them use this worker for a temporary period of time as a trial. Anytime during that trial they decide they don't like him, that's fine. There's no obligation. They're not just out that $10,000 or $3,000 they normally would have paid an outside service like this. Instead, they're only going to be out the hourly wage that they already approved for the time that they allowed to have him out there. If they fired him on week 1, well, they would have paid him that week 1 wage anyway. So that's all they're really paying for as far as reimbursement to us, but they wouldn't even have paid the full fee, because after that 1 week, if he in fact gets fired, then we are in agreement to try to replace him. And we'll try to share with him another couple resumes, and we'll have some parameters that we will have as far as rules to keep guys from just dress shopping, so to speak, where they're just constantly asking you for resumes because they're not working out for whatever small reason that is, because they ultimately are paying for a service here. We're not going to keep on just sending them guys and they're going to be super picky about it. However, in general, whenever you're running across a full-time worker pitch, it's simple. Mr. Jones, we definitely have guys that would be willing to join companies like yours on a full-time capacity, particularly, as we're out there looking for traveling workers. We always run across guys that want to stay local and more than likely have the type of guy you're looking for in the database already. But let me go ahead and clarify here, what target wage do you want to pay him? All right, now let me look at my rate sheet here. If you wanted him for a 30-day trial, sir, your price would be this, and just read your rate sheets right there. It's the first column. If you wanted to trial him for 60 days, sir, you would go to this rate. And if you wanted him for 90 days, this would be the rate. Now, how it works, Mr. Jones, is very simple. We basically will cover the workman's comp and the general liability, all that processing, vetting, hiring, qualifying, making sure he meets your parameters, etc. Set him up for the interview. You bring him on. We will do his payroll every week, just like it's a temporary job where we're collecting his hours and all of that stuff, with the exception of at the end of the trial that the client pre-selects, 30 days, 60 days, or 90 days, that worker becomes eligible for direct hire, no questions asked. So if we all agree that we're going to send him a $20 an hour worker for, let's say, for example, $38 per hour on a 30-day trial, we'll go ahead and sign that worker up under Catalyst Docs. We'll go ahead and send him out there for an interview. If the client agrees that he wants him, he'll start work. He'll go out there and work with the client, just like he's there full time. Literally, the same capacity as our temp guy would. And at the end of the week, the client will share with us his hours, his timesheet, just like he would if it was temporary. And that will happen for 4 weeks. At the 4th week, and the last invoice is paid, that worker is now just eligible. That's what we agreed to do. We've, in essence, collected our buyout fee over the course of the hourly wage. And when that trial ended, that worker became eligible for direct hire or employment, where he can then sign up directly to work with that client, and then they would handle his payroll from there out. we're done. We move on to finding them another guy or move on to another client. Really that simple. So again, this isn't something that everybody will play with, but there's some of you that will be joining the company and this is the team you're on. So there will be a couple more videos created later on about Trial Now with the logos included, where you can kind of see the program and some of the materials that we send out for that and how that really works, some of the different rules and parameters. But I wanted to give you guys kind of a light intro talk or conversation to have when and if you run into this call in the field, because they are out there and in abundance. There's a lot of companies out there that only want 1 or 2 guys and they would like to have them full time. I wanted to give you guys kind of, you know, an angle to take with that, so it's not something that you just throw away because those are valuable leads. It's just not something that somebody who sells a temporary job all the time would focus all of his time and energy on, because it takes just as much time to send CSAs and bill rates and find and look and vet one man as it does to find 10, except for one of those jobs pays you, the sales rep, 10 to 1. So unless you're in the division where you deal with Trial Nows, you know, you just give them a little bit of a light introduction to how it would work. Maybe try to get them set up to where they're really open to it. Very, very seldom do I have somebody that is not super excited about how that sounds to their organization, and it's a great and easy lead to be able to pass up and help turn around and create revenue for the company, which then in turn does come back to you in the form of incentives and bonuses and all of the above. So hopefully this gives you guys, you know, another angle to take upon a call that could occur where they're not looking for part-time or temporary guys like you're trying to find, but instead just want a guy to join their company full-time.